commitment to making sure we're protecting Maui dolphins. We have so few left, so we've already put in place greater restrictions around the kinds of fishing that occur in places where we know our Maui dolphins are. This new technology will help us understand with even more detail where they are, what more we might need to do to protect them, and make sure we've got the right protections in place. Well, really it's about making sure that where we have those protections, we put them in the places that Maui dolphins really need them. You know, we've drawn basically geographical areas where we've restricted certain types of fishing, but this will help us understand where they are, their movements, where the extra protections are required. Anything you want to add on that? I'd hope that looking at the new threat management plan that there would be a view that we really have extended the protections that were needed to make sure that we're not leaving anything to chance. So we've widened the areas where there are restrictions on what you can do and how you do it within the fishery, all in the name of protecting Maui dolphins and Hector's dolphins. Oh, look, in that regard, you know, perhaps better placed towards the group who are part of this project. So Maui 63, WWF, Sanford and Moana have come together. We as the government have come in to help fund the project, but it's ultimately been an initiative of those NGOs and those scientists on the ground.
Just on Maui dolphins, the dire situation at the island, have we dropped the ball here, and why is it
As Minister Parker outlined, there has been, unfortunately, for many years, disputes over how to best protect Maui dolphins. We haven't had the level of collaboration we have now. We've come in and said, look, we have an expectation around protecting certain areas to make sure we're looking after Maui dolphins, but we need everyone to come together. We need our scientists, our researchers, we need iwi, we need NGOs, we need especially fisheries companies.
Well, the Ministry's always assessing what more needs to be done. I think the most likely source of the data that we need to make those decisions is likely to come from this. So this will provide us with a lot more information as to where the dolphins actually live, what their patterns are. You may have heard them say that we've got a lot of information about what happens in summer, but at the moment we don't know what happens in winter. So all those sorts of things will help future decisions.
I think the first thing we'd be looking to is we made recent changes to those protected areas, just doing that cross-check to see whether or not the dolphins are moving, outside of those areas. Have we got the protections in the right place? It'll mean that we won't have a dispute over what they might be doing. We'll know for sure. Oh, look, as much as we have been with every situation that we've had to deal with, look, this is a situation where we know the source of the cases, we know where there may have been contact with others. Contact tracing and people's compliance here is critical. We can reach out, tell people who might be at risk, get them home isolating and tested, and that is a critical part of our response and our ability to stay at level 1. The other thing that I would add, there are many, many people who in this particular scenario are being treated as those close plus contacts. So they haven't had necessarily direct one-to-one. But we are asking them to isolate and be tested. We're going further than we usually do, and that's for the very reason because that leaves the rest of the country able to stay at level 1. Well, if there is a Section 70 order, of course they are obliged. We actually have some legal footing for that, and so there are repercussions. But actually, repercussions aren't what we all want. We want people to do the right thing because that's what keeps everyone safe, and that's how the Team of 5 Million have been so successful today. Oh, and look, yes, they should have. But ultimately, we're asking now, of course, now that we're dealing with the fact that that situation arose, for everyone who may have come in contact to do the right thing, to make sure that they're isolating, make sure they're testing. That is how the rest of the country is able to stay at level 1 with all of their freedoms. So they're paying a price for everyone and doing the right thing for everyone.
What was your reaction when you found out that?
Oh, no question. Of course, like everyone, frustrated. But at the same time, one of the things we need is an environment where people can feel like even if they've made the wrong choice, even if they've gotten tested later than they should have, that they still do what we need them to do. And if we have a massive pile-in, that creates an environment where people are afraid to get tested, where they may not do what we need them to do. So we've constantly got to manage that.
Are you satisfied with it?
No, not at all, because ultimately the person who was tested as positive, they were part of the exception. They were always told that they weren't meant to be operating in a level 2 environment. They were still required to stay at home and be tested, and so for good reason. Oh, look, no, not at this stage. Of course, this is very different to what we experienced in August last year. We didn't know the source of the outbreak. Here, we know exactly what's happened. We know who needs to be contact traced, and now we know who needs to be at home, be tested, and stay isolated for 14 days. But we know that it's those people that we need to ask to stay home. The distinction I'm drawing is cases we've had in the past where we don't know whether there have been other COVID positive people in the environment. We know who had COVID, we know where they were, when they were there, and we're asking everyone who may have been in that facility at those times to stay home to get a test. Okay, well, take the last couple of questions.
Considering treating returnees differently depending on whether they come from high risk or low risk countries?
Not at this stage. We've taken an all-inclusive approach where we ask everyone to, particularly because even if you've come from a low-risk country, you're often travelling to New Zealand in a high-risk environment, on flights with high-risk people, through airports that might be high-risk, and that in itself causes issues.
Are you looking at other advice furthering on this?
Oh, not at this stage. I mean, the difference would be, for instance, if we created a bubble. So under that guise, we have been. But more generally, at this stage, because of the way that people are travelling around the world, and we do know from evidence that people can pick up infection whilst they're travelling, we've generally treated travellers as higher risk.
And how are things tracking with the Trans-Tasman?
Yeah, I think, obviously this has been something we've been working on for some time. And one of the things that I think we have to acknowledge now is that no matter what happens in the future, people have to be prepared for it to turn on and off, because we've seen that already, and that will be the nature of any future bubble that we're likely to have.
So you do really see it happening in the future?
Oh, we've never ruled it out. We've always continued that work. We've wanted to try and have a situation where we don't have that unpredictability, but I think if both countries want to maintain their own flexibility in the way they manage, we will see it turn on and off from time to time.
So just a quick question.
Oh, yeah, look, everyone's got one last, so I'm going to let you finish with firearms.
Just a quick question on firearms. The police commissioner Andrew Costa says it's unlikely recent firearm reforms will be enough to revoke someone's license for being a gang member. Is that good enough? Should someone who was a gang member, should there be sufficient reason to revoke?
I just referenced the revoking there. Of course, we have the ability in the character test now, with the work that we've done, to take that into account in the issuing. But of course, there are existing firearm licences already in circulation. All right, thanks everyone. Sorry. Shannon.